Most people overestimate what they can do in one day and underestimate what they can do in 6 months. Now imagine this: in 180 days you wake up in a life that's not just different, it's deliberate. Your wallet is fuller, your mind is clear, you're no longer asking for clarity, you've become it. This isn't wishful thinking. It's the predictable result of who you choose to become starting today. But here's the reality. Most people won't do it. They'll watch, they'll think, they'll nod, and then they'll go back to the same loop. Why? Because they've built their lives around getting, not becoming. Let's be clear, change doesn't come because you want it. It comes because you enforce it. And the harsh truth, most people are waiting for change to feel ready, feel motivated, feel convenient. So ask yourself this: 6 months from now, do you want to explain why nothing changed? Or do you want results that don't need explaining? Here's the contrast. Option 1, 180 days from now, you're still talking about your goals, still circling the same habits, still repeating the same excuses. Maybe next year, maybe when I have more money, maybe when life calms down. Option 2, 180 days from now, your routines are different, your habits are hardened, your results are measurable, and you know exactly why. Because you built it brick by brick starting today. It's not dramatic, it's directional. One step daily, one new standard enforced. Not through hype, through clarity, through systems, through execution. This video isn't about feeling better, it's about building better. It's about killing the illusion that transformation is out of reach. It isn't. What's out of reach is keeping your current habits and expecting a different outcome. And I'll say this now: the world doesn't reward what you hope to become. It rewards what you prove you already are through behavior. If you want 6 months to mean something, you start by choosing your direction. Not later. Not when things are stable. Now. That's how this starts, and that's how everything changes. And at the end of this video, I'll share the exact 6-month formula I would follow if I were you, starting from zero with debt, distraction, and doubt. I'll lay it out clearly, step by step, the same one that rebuilt my life. But for now, remember this: the version of you that changes your life will not show up by accident. It only appears through action. If this already shifted how you think, like it now and keep going. You don't get what you want, you get who you become. That's not a quote, that's the rule. If I were starting today with everything I know now, I wouldn't open my laptop. I wouldn't make a financial plan. I wouldn't chase opportunity. I'd go straight to the mirror. Not to check my appearance, but to confront the only person responsible for my trajectory. Most people skip this. They think money problems are financial. They're not. They're identity problems. The account balance is just a symptom. The root is always the person making the decisions. Here's the first correction: your life isn't built by what you chase. It's built by what you tolerate. And most people tolerate being average because they haven't demanded more from the person they see every morning. I learned that from a slap, verbal but sharp. Jim, your results aren't because of the economy. They're because of who you've become. That was my mentor. I didn't like it, but I couldn't ignore it. Because when I stopped blaming the system, the market, the government, and started upgrading myself, the results followed. Predictably, logically, not overnight, but irreversibly. That's the first phase of your 6-month change. Stop asking for more and start becoming more. You want a better paycheck. Become more valuable. You want financial freedom. Become more disciplined. You want new results. Change the source code, which is you. Success doesn't arrive by wish. It shows up when you've made room for it. And most people haven't. They're still trying to pour outcomes into the same container of habits, thoughts, and excuses. Let me make this practical. If I were starting over today, I would build one thing first: internal credibility. That means you do exactly what you say even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. Want to build that? Start with these. Wake up early, not because it's popular, but because your time is expensive. Write your goals down, not because it's trendy, but because your mind processes what it sees. Read 10 pages a day, not to feel smart, but to wire your thinking for growth. That's 1,800 pages in 6 months. More than most people read in 5 years. You think that won't change your trajectory? It will. You are what you repeatedly absorb. Garbage in, garbage out. Structure and discipline out. Input creates outcome. And this isn't theory. I lived it. I was broke, working odd jobs, washing dishes in a cheap motel, but while scrubbing plates, I visualized myself speaking on stage. Not once, every day. I trained my brain to build a new normal long before I lived it. Was that magic? No, it was mental alignment. When you see a new version of yourself enough, your brain starts to believe it. And when your brain believes it, your body starts to act like it. And that's when reality shifts. Not before. So ask yourself this: does my daily behavior match the person I claim I want to become? Am I living like the version of me that earns more, delivers more, leads more? For most people, the answer is no. They're not underperforming because of lack of intelligence. They're underperforming because of inconsistency, distraction, and a mindset built on hoping, not becoming. They overspend. They react emotionally. They avoid difficult decisions. They don't study. They don't lead. And they wonder why life stays stuck. If your bank account hasn't grown, it's not because of the job. It's because of the operator. That's you. You don't rise by getting lucky. You rise by becoming inevitable. And that only happens when you shift your identity first. The first 30 days of your 6-month plan, they're not about income. They're about character. Because when character upgrades, income follows. You become the kind of person who shows up before the alarm, the kind of person who writes goals and tracks results, the kind of person who says no to short-term pleasure and yes to long-term leverage. But let me give you the pushback now. This sounds slow. Yes, it is. And that's why it works. Quick results are fragile. They fade. Sustainable change is built, and that takes rhythm. So let's define that rhythm. 30 days of locked-in discipline. No guessing, no reacting, just reading, planning, executing. A brick per day, a wall in a month. And here's what happens: momentum. You begin to feel the shift. You think clearer. You waste less. You act faster. And something rare happens, what I call financial gravity. Opportunities begin to stick to you. Why? Because your habits have made room for them. You don't panic when you see a bill. You don't hesitate when you see an investment. You've trained for it. You're ready. So if you do nothing else today, do this. Look in the mirror, not to critique, but to confront. Tell yourself, if I want more, I become more. And then prove it. That's not motivation. That's the direction. That's how this begins. Because the first trap you must escape is this one: waiting for goals to work without working on yourself. Now you're ready for what comes next, not inspiration, but execution. Let's talk about discipline, not as an idea, but as a system. Success doesn't respond to emotion, it responds to routine. You can want change, you can write it down, you can talk about it. But unless you train yourself to act when it's inconvenient, the rest doesn't matter. Most people build dreams on paper, then live lives that contradict them. They have goals, they have intentions, but they don't have the behavior to support either. Why? Because they wait for motivation. They think motivation is the ignition switch, but discipline is the engine. And if the engine doesn't turn, nothing moves. This is where the 6-month shift either becomes real or dies. You don't build financial momentum by thinking. You build it by doing, especially when you don't feel like it. My mentor told me something that stripped away every excuse I had. You can get up with motivation, or you can get up with a schedule. The choice is yours. That's not a suggestion. It's a fork in the road. The truth is, this success doesn't wait until you feel ready. It arrives for those who show up regardless. In the rain, in doubt, on tired days, on uninspired mornings. Because behavior isn't about how you feel. It's about what you enforce. Picture a gym. You don't go because you're excited every day. You go because that's what your identity requires. Your body doesn't get stronger by good intentions. It changes because you move through resistance repeatedly. Your finances work the same way. Your wallet is a scoreboard of your daily decisions. If you spend more than you earn every day, it weakens. If you save something, even just $10, it builds strength. And it's not the amount, it's the pattern. Because every financial move is a vote for the person you're becoming. So here's the rule: one financial action every day. Not complex, not theoretical, one move. Save $5. Read one page of a financial book. Cancel one useless subscription. Track one spending category. Rebuild your budget spreadsheet. Sell one item you don't need. Each action by itself is small, but combined they erode the old identity, and they construct a new one, the one that wins. Because the goal isn't wealth. The goal is becoming the kind of person who creates wealth. And those people don't wait, they train. Let me give you a real story. I had a friend, regular job, average income. He said, I know I need to save, but I don't make enough. I said, start anyway. The act of saving is more valuable than the amount you save. He committed to $5 a day. 6 months later, he'd saved more than in the previous 5 years combined. Not because he made more, but because he became someone who saves. Identity is built through repetition, and finance is the fastest mirror for that. People don't go broke from one decision. They leak value through 1,000 tiny cracks every day. They scroll instead of study. They order instead of cook. They spend to feel better, not to live better. But just as loss is built in silence, so is strength. You build rhythm. You build a personal system. Now imagine this. After 30 days of discipline, you wake up knowing what to do. Mornings are for planning. Evenings are for review. Each week ends with one measurable win. You sold something. You increased your income. You are locked in one financial habit that used to scare you. You don't fantasize about change, you build it. And here's what most people miss: discipline isn't just about action, it's about focus. Most people lose not because they lack drive, but because they scatter it. They get distracted. They check notifications mid-task. They try to solve 5 problems at once. They chase novelty and avoid repetition. But here's the law: breakthrough lives in focus. You don't need more time, you need tighter attention. So if I were you, I'd make a 6-month vow. I control my attention. I filter what reaches me. I decide who interrupts. I cut low-value noise. I protect my input like an asset because it is. This is what real change looks like, not louder goals but tighter control. Not more effort but better direction. From here on out, your new normal is this. Act even without energy. Follow the schedule, not the mood. Focus even when it's hard. And if you do this long enough, something internal shifts. You stop needing to push. Discipline becomes reflex. You stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop performing for others and start performing for your own standard. That's when the pride shows up. Not millions, not praise, but something stronger, knowing you're the one in control. That is your first profit. That is the foundation of all the others. Now here's what's next. Even with daily action and focus, most people plateau not because of failure, but because of isolation. They build momentum, then fall back into the same environments, the same voices, the same doubts. In the next segment, we fix that. Let's talk about your circle and why your environment either accelerates you or bleeds you dry. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This isn't philosophy. It's a performance principle. You can have discipline, you can have a schedule, you can have clarity. But if your environment doesn't support it, it will erode. No one builds lasting results in isolation. Because change doesn't just come from within. It's reinforced by what's around you. The conversations you hear, the inputs you allow, the voices you trust. Most people miss this. They optimize their planner but leave their circle untouched. They upgrade their habits but still sit at the same table with the same people who talk about the same problems every day. And then they wonder why motivation fades, why momentum slips, why the internal shift doesn't translate into external change. Here's why your environment is not neutral. It either compounds your growth or drags it down. Think about your closest 5 inputs right now, not just people inputs. Who you talk to, what you scroll, what you hear in the background, what fills the gaps when your mind is idle. Are those signals making you sharper, or are they slowly dulling your edge? Now here's the worst part, negativity is subtle. You don't notice the damage at first. One sarcastic remark, one complaint thread, one subtle dig at your ambition. It seems harmless, but it adds up. And if it happens every day, it becomes a new normal. The result, you stop thinking clearly. You start second guessing. You feel resistance where there used to be action. You drift and blame yourself for losing focus when in fact your atmosphere was leaking energy the entire time. So if I were in month 3 of a 6-month transformation, this would be my move. Rebuild the circle. Audit every input. Identify every leak. Ask yourself 3 questions. After spending time with this person, am I more focused or more distracted? After this conversation, do I feel urgency or fatigue? Is this person building something, or are they always reacting to life? And if even one of those answers points to drag, make a hard cut. Not out of anger, out of necessity. Because every voice near you is either fuel or friction. And if your current environment can't provide clarity, manufacture one. Read from people you admire. Listen to thinkers with standards. Watch content that aligns with your values. Don't wait for a circle, build it with intention. If you don't have a millionaire mentor, read one every day. If you don't have an accountability partner, create a self-check system. If no one around you talks about discipline, make it the language of your mind. You don't need external permission to enforce internal standards. And here's why this matters now. At this point, 60 to 90 days in, you've built rhythm. You've moved. You've seen early results. That's when most people get complacent. They hear praise, they see progress, they loosen the grip. But that's not the time to relax, it's the time to scale. Your discipline is strong, now multiply it. You do that by upgrading 3 things. Monetization. Find one new stream even if it's small. Sell one product. Offer one service. Leverage one skill. Don't chase passive income, create proactive results. Tracking. Start a weekly review. Not complicated, just answer what worked, what didn't, what's next. Automation. Build one recurring system, a transfer, a reminder, a habit loop. Remove friction. Make success easier to repeat. These 3 monetization, tracking, automation are what turn action into sustainability. It's how you evolve from doing the work into becoming the person who lives the work. From here, your growth becomes exponential. Not because you're pushing harder, but because every part of your life is now designed to support the new direction. Momentum isn't luck, it's architecture. So here's your task for this month. Audit your environment, cut the noise, multiply your system. Because the next phase isn't about potential, it's about precision. Now we shift from discipline to depth, from outer change to internal command. It's time to reflect, not retreat. Knowledge without self-evaluation becomes noise. You've moved through discipline, action, and structure. But transformation isn't just built in effort, it's secured in reflection. Without self-review, momentum drifts. Patterns repeat. Energy leaks back into the old rhythm. So this segment isn't a pause, it's an upgrade. A checkpoint for clarity. Ask yourself the following 5 questions, no need to write yet. Just answer honestly. In your head is enough. But be exact, because precision is power. Question 1. Alignment. On a scale from 1 to 10, how much does your current daily behavior reflect the person you claim you want to become in 6 months? If today's rhythm repeated 180 times, where would it lead you? If that answer disappoints you, good. That discomfort is direction. Question 2. Ownership of time. How often are you running your day versus reacting to it? If someone else controls your time, a screen, a demand, a distraction, then they're controlling your future. Stop negotiating your schedule. Question 3. Environmental support. Does your current environment support your discipline or fracture it? One complaint, one sarcastic jab, one distraction loop can undo 6 days of internal alignment. Identify the voices that sharpen you and those that dull you. Question 4. Financial rhythm. Are you building financial strength daily, even by 1%? Not big leaps. Micro habits. 5 saved dollars. 1 skipped expense. 1 valuable page read. If the answer is no, it's not about money, it's about rhythm. Question 5. Personal responsibility. Do you truly believe that you are responsible for everything happening in your life? If you're waiting for the economy, politics, or luck, you're surrendering the wheel. Say it clearly, I am the cause. I am the solution. These aren't feel-good prompts, they're a reset. If even one of these exposed a weak link, that's the point. Review them again later. Write your answers down. Not for display, for precision. Because silent alignment always precedes external results. This is the turning point in your 6-month system. You stop chasing results and you start owning your operating system. And that prepares you for the next and final segment. Not advice, not emotion. A final reset on what this all leads to and the exact formula to apply from this point forward. Every day you don't decide is still a decision. If you followed this far, you already know the truth. Change doesn't begin when the world improves. It begins the moment you stop outsourcing responsibility. So here's the reality check. 6 months is not forever. It's 180 chances, 1 per day. Each one a vote for the person you're becoming. And most people will waste them. Not because they're incapable, but because they're waiting. Waiting for January. Waiting for a raise. Waiting for motivation. Waiting for some version of ready that never arrives. But every delay costs. Every day you delay change is a day you reinforce your current outcome. That's the math. And eventually delay becomes identity. I'll start soon becomes I never started. I'm figuring it out becomes I stayed where I was. I'm not sure becomes I missed the window. The truth is this: nothing changes until you change yourself. Not the economy. Not your boss. Not your circumstances. You. And if you don't, you've made a decision. Even silence is a choice. Even hesitation is a vote for your current reality. So what do? You draw a line. You say enough. Not as an emotional high, as a command. You say this ends here. This begins now. Because from this point on, there's only one lever that moves everything. You work on yourself harder than you work on your income. That's the formula. Build character and opportunity shows up. Build systems and discipline becomes natural. Build standards and success begins to follow you without force. You don't manipulate the world to win. You train yourself to be the kind of person it cannot ignore. That's not idealism, that's execution. So what if no one believes in you yet? What if no one claps? What if no one understands? It doesn't matter. You're not obligated to remain who you were yesterday. You don't need permission to start over. You don't need applause to operate at a higher level. You need a decision. Starting today, you become the person who acts, who learns, who does the work even when no one is watching, who sharpens, repeats, and doesn't quit. That's not motivation, that's identity. So here's the final challenge. If you stayed with this video all the way through, you're ready. Say it out loud, write it down, declare it: I'm starting my 180 days, and this time it's not a goal, it's a direction. No hype, no hoping, just execution. If this topic matters to you and you don't want to miss what's next, subscribe now.